get to the end of the daf here, daf test, and then depending on time, we'll talk about Simona for daf test. It's easy stuff. But I want to, okay, let's one thing first, let's finish the daf. We'll do that today. So, rolling on test, and base. Okay, so the Mishnah was asking when the Kriya Shema time in the morning is, and we ended up saying it's when you can see the difference between white and blue in your tzitzis. That's halacha. The Tosfos is actually saying it's the actual stripes in the chuliot. And Rabbi is saying blue to green, blue to chelas to karsi. Fine. Along the way, we started getting into the issue once again of being somach Geula Tefila, of attaching the reference, the mention of Hashem's redemption, and the Jewish people's redemption out of Egypt, which is like a shvach to Hashem, to the Tefila, the Shemona Esrei, which is really an essential bakasha, the essential request that we ask. And we said that's heavy duty, and then we introduced the idea of these vasikin, the people who are humble and love mitzvahs, and the way they would daven Shachris, and the mitzvah Kriya Shema is to put it all together and get like all the birds with one stone. They would say Kriya Shema in its optimal time, right before Nates, so they have Kriya Shema at proper time. Then Machlokas, if it's any time from when you can see your friend from 4 hours or just dafka right before, and at least according to some, one sheet here, it's best right before the sunrise. And then they said the brachos of Kriya Shema before and afterwards. The second one being in the morning time, Geula Yisrael, that's the Geula, and then immediately launching into Tefila, being somach Geula Tefila right at the moment of Nates. That's ideal. So that's what we're up to over here. And we even said, by the way, in Masorah, the name of the Kala Kadisha, the Yerushalayim, they have the Masorah, and the holy king of Jerusalem, that one who manages to get daven at Nates proper, nothing bad will happen to him that day. Reb Zera said, what are you talking about? I had a terrible thing happen to me. He said, what are you talking about? You had a great thing happen to you. You think it's bad to have to go bring, the myrtle branches to the king? You should be willing to pay for that, because that way at least you'll be, as Rabbi Yochanan said, you should be able to run to greet even a non-Jewish king, so you can see the difference between royalty and Mashiach's royalty. That's what we got up to. Fine, so we actually there's a dot there, a period, and a number of my lines. We're basically medium-sized lines. First one in the line is Yizke, there's a period in that line. So it says, here. We have a line number, someone?
42.
Line 42, I should have done line 42. Amar le Rav Ilah le'ula. Rav Ilah said to Ula. Ula was an Amora who made his business to go back and forth to Yerushalayim, and he said to Ula, it's funny, Ila, Ula, and Ki Alisa when you go up. I'm not sure how much coincidence and how much not, but anyways, Rabbi Geula said to Ula, when Ki Alisa, when you go up maybe to Yerushalayim, to Eretz Yisrael from Bavel, Lahasam, over there to Eretz Yisrael, Sha'il v'shlama d'Rabbeinu achi. Please, can you inquire about, ask how's Rabbeinu doing? He's my brother, says Rabbi Geula. And please, the request Rabbi Geula said is do it b'ma'amad kol hachavura. I want you to do it in front of everybody. Like stand in front of the shul and say, how's the great, Rabbi Brida doing? I have greetings from him back in Bavel. Why? Because I want to accord him honor. I want people to realize that I want people in Eretz Yisrael to realize that people in Bavel are machshiv from Bron. I want to know what he's up to give him cover, because he is such an important person. How do you know his importance? What's his great godless? Gemara says, the Adam Gadol who? He was a great man. This is Rabbi Geula saying to Ula. He's an Adam Gadol, meaning he's a Talmud Chacham. V'samech b'mitzvahs. Not only is he well learned, but he also has a great attitude in his love for doing mitzvahs. And what's the illustration to tell you how much you love mitzvahs? Because Zimna Chada, one time it happened that he was Sama Geula Tefila. He managed to be Sama Geula Tefila, again meaning at the moment of Nates. So he got Geula Yisrael, and then Nates, he saw the sun come over the horizon, as he said, Hashem Sivai Tetach. And he was so happy with that he had succeeded in doing his avodas Hashem in such an ideal way that v'lo pasik pucha v'kumei kule yoma. He didn't stop smiling the whole day long. That's how much he loves mitzvahs. He didn't stop smiling because he could do that mitzvah. So that's the story to show you how much he loved it. And again, you see how someone who's a vasik, who's a chav of mitzvahs, will love davening Nates. By the way, we're going to move away from Nates now. That was the Nates theme that's now passing us. There's obviously great mile of davening Nates, as you can see. It seems to be much more than just like there's a reason Makdimin, which is heavy duty in its own right, that governs maybe other, Mincha perhaps, Mari. It's more than that. You see here that there's in creation on its ideal time. I mean, there's a Yeruchi Mashemesh, there's a pasuk that is really suggesting that you should do it like that. So it's a heavy duty thing, and heavy duty people are pretty makbid. I should say, many heavy people, many Gedola, many big people are makbid to dominates on a regular basis, and we're in the Nate's room, the Vasikim room. Yeah.
Which word is the smile?
Hucha. Lo pasik, like psak, pasik is like to end, like in modern Hebrew, psik, I think is a period of psik. Hucha, a smile that humei from his mouth, kuliyoma, the whole day. Fine. Now, the Gemara is going to be bothered by a technical issue, which is something we actually explored once before. It's going to say let me say it outside first for a moment, and you'll tell me where you've seen it before. It's going to say, wait a second, how can you possibly be so Geula Tefila? It's not going to work, because you still have to say, Hashem Tzai Titach, you'll have Ashkiveinu. So there are things that get in the middle between Gal Yisrael and Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu V'Yamasenu. So if you've got this Hashem Tzai Titach in the middle there, you're not being so much, you're not being masmich, conjoining Geula Tefila. It's not going to work. Like just,
why isn't that your piece?
Why isn't it?
Hashem's Tzai.
Well, maybe that's the answer. But the assumption, the question is based on the assumption that Baruch Atah is the beginning of the Shemona Esrei, which is technically true, and Gal Yisrael is the so Geula Tefila would mean Geula Gal Yisrael to Tefila Baruch Atah. But the problem is there's something in the middle. There's some things in the middle there. That's the kasha. So we've actually seen that before. Where did we see this before? You can remember we discussed the idea of being Soma Geula Tefila on Daf. Daf Dal is correct. Right? That was our symbol, right? The door going from Geula there to the Kota. So that sugya happened over there on Daf Dalet, and actually the Rabbi Yochanan who's over there comes to play right over here again. This is fairly redundant. If you're going to if you don't, it comes to us not, we'll review it. So here's what it says. Matzi Samach, how in the world are you going to be able to join Geula Tefila? V'ha'am Rabbi Yochanan, because look, Rabbi Yochanan said it not long ago. If you see the little star, you might have a star, and then in the source of Shas, in the margin, it says Le'il Davdala. You see that? On the base. We saw it above. Here it is. That Rabbi Yochanan, B'tchila hu omer, Hashem Tzai Titach, at the beginning of one's prayer, you should say Hashem Tzai Titach, Hashem open my lips. Ul'besof, and at the end of Shemona Esrei, you should, hu omer, one should say Yiyu Rata Imrifi. You should say, let the utterances of my lips, whatever it is, and the things that I said, be, to your liking, Hashem, according to your will. So if you're saying, the second part's not relevant, the first part is relevant. If you're prefacing your Shemona Esrei with Hashem's Tzai Tiftach, then that's making a hefsek between Geula and Tefillah. Amar Rav Elazar, so Rav Elazar this sort of says, well, listen, Tehei b'Tefillah shel Armis. Let's just say, Tehei means I don't know, let's just say when Rabbi Yochanan said that, he wasn't talking about Shachris. He was talking about Marv. And then it wouldn't be a problem. But yes, it's a big problem. Because if you recall the sugi from Daf Daled, the whole sugi was, wait a second, Rabbi Yochanan had said, Ezu ben Olam Haba, who is a ben Olam Haba, who's going to heaven, Zehu hasom Geula Tefila shel Arvis. The whole point was one who is Soma Geula Tefila in the nighttime, for Shemona Esrei in the evening. Remember, we ended up saying we had a discussion of Machlokas between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shimon Levi, if the Shema comes at the bookends of the day, and that discussion there. So this is brought as a proof that Shema comes before Shemona Esrei, because you have Geula before Tefillah. So if the question is, how could you possibly say Hashem Tzai Tiftach, it comes between Ge'al Yisrael and Shemona Esrei, and if your answer is, well, we meant only the nighttime, that's not an answer at all. Because Rabbi Yochanan himself, the same Rabbi Yochanan who said, say Hashem Tzai Tiftach, and the same Rabbi Yochanan who said, the Ben Olam Haba is so much Geula Tefillah in the evening, so how could you tell me that he meant to only introduce Hashem Tzai Tiftach in the evening? That's when he's saying that means so much Geula Tefillah. So it can't be the pshat. Is it clear? No? Okay. So that's the kasha. Ella, so Ella means we reject. So the Tehei answer, the proposed idea that Hashem just applies to Marav is being rejected. Ella Amr of Elazar, Tehei b'Tefila Samincha. Simple solution. That when Rabbi Yochanan said, insert the words Hashem Sasai Tiftach, he didn't mean at Shachris, because that would be in the way of Gal Yisrael and Mitzvah Geula Tefillah. And he didn't mean Marav either, because it's the same problem. But he meant just Mincha time, just a Mincha. So that's one answer. Rav Ashi says, you don't need to assume that this whole rigmarole that is just about of the special din of Hashem Sasai Tiftach when they apply to Mincha. Actually, you could say Afila Tema Akulu. You actually could say Afilu, even Tema, you could say Akulu, it applies to all of the Shemona Esreis, all three, because if your question is, well, what about Hashem Sasai being an interruption? No. The Kivan, the Kavua Rabban Tefila, once the rabbi said, as you were kind of answering, David, that this is part of the Tefila, so that Tefila Richta Damya, it becomes an extension of the Tefila. You know, like many things we have, you know, like I don't know, what a chatzitza issue. You ask some questions like a chatzitza that breaks, you know, between you and the water. You say, oh no, that's my hair. It's an extension of me, whatever it is. It becomes not a chatzitza. So this Hashem, I don't know, whatever. I guess the Chazal said being so in Geula Tefila. Once the rabbis say Tefila includes Hashem Tefila Tefillah, it's no longer a hefsek anymore. No longer an interruption. Fine. Dilo temahachi, because listen. If you wouldn't say that when the rabbis added extra things, those don't constitute interruptions. You know, I mean, many other things like this too. I should point out. If you have extreme cases, the Haggadah of Pesach, that's a long extreme case. And that's like one long. It's supposed to like you make your bracha. For the many examples of Haggadah because it's so stuffed out. But for example, when you make a bracha, break Hadama on the karpas. You're supposed to have in mind that's also going on your bar in a long time from now. It's connected. Or many times, I don't know, you make Kiddush Rabdali, you make a break Gafen, and then you don't drink the wine, you start saying other things too. What happened? You're making a hefsek? No, it's all part and parcel of this bracha, and therefore it's not a hefsek. It happens lots of times. So it's the same kind of thing. That once the rabbi said this is the surah of the Mariv, so then it's one big extension. And if you don't say that, so then you're never going to forget Hashem Sasai Tiftach. You'll never be able to be so Geula Tefillah at night because you have another bracha between Gal Yisrael and Shemona Esrei, which is a Hashkivenu bracha. So Hashkivenu is getting in your way.
Kaddish.
And the Kaddish too, exactly. So that's what the Gemara says here. Dilo temahachi. If you don't say that what the rabbis add doesn't constitute interruption, so then Arvis heichi matzi samach. How could you ever in Marav make it work? V'ha boila meimor hashkivenu. You have to say hashkivenu. That's all separate bracha altogether. Ella, rather, kiva the titna rabbanan hashkivenu. Once the rabbi said, say hashkivenu also, kagula richta damya, that is considered an extension of the Geula theme. And it is. That's why they put it there. Because we discussed it when we back in Naftalit. It talks about, like, I'll call it personal salvation from the dangers of the night and so on and so forth. Hashkivenu is saying, let us survive the night okay and protect us from the shade and protect us from all strife and misery and war and whatever that happens at nighttime. So that's also like a private, personal Geula extension of the theme, and therefore it's not considered to be any kind of hefsek. Yeah.
How do we know that Am Yisrael didn't say that at the time in Mitzrayim also?
They didn't say Hashkivenu?
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, look what's happening there. Hashem's killing people.
Indeed. But just, so we certainly don't know, but let me just make sure that the Pshat is clear. When we say we're being somach Geula Tefila, what do those words actually mean? So that means we're connecting the blessing, which we'll call it a praise of Hashem, that Hashem was the Goel of the Jewish people. He was the redeemer he redeemed Israel from Mitzrayim with all the Nisim and that comes to that. So that's the greatest Shvach of Hashem, so to speak, and we're transitioning from praising Hashem with the greatest praise in our arsenal, so to speak, into now making requests. But that's the point. So we're sort of tapping into the Geula story as we transition to the requests of the
we're just trying to say, why did you redeem us? It must be for saying excuse.
So something like that. Because now we get like more abstract. I don't say that Pasha. That's a Pasha shot. and again, I'll speak out something else important Tosos spoke out. If you learn the Gemara again, you go over, you're going to see, we keep on talking about, oh, it's so great to be so Geula Tefila. And that's what the Vasikan did. If the question is, wait a second, we all do that. You just want to read it out of the Siddur, you can't go wrong, and there's Geula Tefila. So the Sugya keeps on referring to Geula Tefila, it's referring in this context, like the previous Sugya, to doing that at Nates. Just implicit. It's quite confusing, I think. I think for many years, when I learned this more, I didn't really understand what's going on. I just assumed Geula must be referenced like sunrise or something, because I didn't really get how it's fitting in. So I'm telling you the pshat. Geula means the Bracha Gal Yisrael, the praise of Hashem. Tefillah means Baruch Atah Hashem, and it's implicit. The great Masik and the love mitzvahs, they are doing it at the Nate's moment. And here we're talking about the words interrupt between Gal Yisrael and Shemona Esrei. We're saying those are extensions of the Tefillah, and the.
I still don't understand what the connection is between sunrise and Geula Tefillah. What's the connection?
So there isn't a direct connection. That's what I'm saying. It's like a separate element. There's an additional element, which is we start the day Yeruucha im Hashemesh. The way to start your day is with sunrise to express your reverence to Hashem. It's like a separate element, a separate issue altogether. So but the way that the rabbis want you to express that is through Shemona Esrei, and we're saying that ideally the Shemona Esrei is to preface it with the Gal Yisrael, and that's the bracha that comes after the Shema. So they're not. I'm sure we can make many drashas, but they're interconnected. But the Pashup Pshat is there's an independent chiyuv for Shema, there's an independent chiyuv for saying a bracha after Shema, there's an independent chiyuv for connecting the bracha after Shema called Gal Yisrael to Shemona Esrei, an independent chiyuv to Dam Shemona Esrei in the morning, and we're saying, well, you can kill all those birds with one stone, so to speak, if you time it just right, and there's your clock. I'm saying that if you say your Shema 5 minutes before Nates, it will work out that you'll get Shema, Gal Yisrael, and Shemona Esrei all happening at the exact same time. Get it 10 out of 10. Yeah, many young. Yeah.
One verse be that just like we have the moon, that daybreak comes every day. The darkness turns into light. So
for sure that is, and that actually is one of the brachos of Shema, right? That we say emes ve'emuna. Right. Yeah, there's much to be said on that. I'm not poo-pooing that. I'm just carving all that away because I just want to understand what the Gemara is getting at, and then there's a world of complexity and power. Good. So that's what the Gemara says. Hashkivenu is an extension of the prayer. Yilor Tzumi is an extension of the. Hashkivenu is an extension of the Geula, and Yilor Tzumi is an extension of the prayer, and then everything is not considered an interruption at all. No problem. Now. I'm sorry, I lose my place at this one word. Yeah, fine. Now, Mechti. We're at 6 lines up from the bottom. There's a period there. First one is Arichta, Damia, period. Now, Mechti. Let's see. Mechti means now let's see. Sort of, we're taking a step back and exploring something that was said before. Hi, this quote, you l'ratzon imrifi, end quote, this sentiment that we express of let what I say be in line with your will. So mashma lebasof, umashma leikara. It actually sort of seems like it's appropriate to say both at the end of your praying and at the beginning of your praying, right? Because it either could mean let what I've said be acceptable to you, or let what I'm about to say be acceptable to you. So the question is, where does it actually belong? Again, so it says Masha lebasof, umasha lemeikara, diba'im lememor. It seems to be appropriate to say in both places, beginning and end. So my time at Tiknu Rabban la'achar Yirches Brachos. Why did they say the proper time to say Yilor Tzumi fi? Let what I say be according to your will, being at the end of Shemona Esrei, after the 18 Brachos. Shemona Esrei, 18 Brachos. Why did they do that? Lemru meikara, let them put it at the beginning. Amr of Yehuda, Breder Shimon. This is actually a little unusual if you ask me, but anyways, Amr of Yehuda, Breder Shimon, and Pazi. Hoel v'lo Amru David. When David HaMelech, these are psukim from Tehillim, since David HaMelech himself didn't mention this business of the Yilor Tzumi fi, Ela la'achar Yirches Parshio, until the end of the 18th Tehillah. So, Afikach Titnu Rabban, and the rabbis towed that line. They followed his precedent and didn't make the pasuk of the Yilot Rafi la'achar Yudches Brachos until after the 18 Brachos of Shmona Esrei. That's what it says. That's what it says. That's what it means. They're tapping into David. I don't have it. Like, I do have one bit of insight more than just the Pashut Pshat. The whole source, just small, the whole source of being Somach Geula Tefila, where did that come from? It came from the psukim that said Hashem Suri V'Goali is the end of number what we call 19, and then which is the same Tehillah as where it's this Yilot Rafi. Hashem Suri V'Goali, they're the same Tehillah, and then what we call number 20. The next parsha is the one that says Yad Hashem B'Yom Tzara. Hashem will answer you in your moment of I don't know, tzara, of need. So since David Melech was somech this issue of Hashem Suri V'Goali, Hashem is my redeemer, a rock of my redeemer, he abutted that in the next chapter Tehillim, the next parak, with this Hashem will answer you Yad Hashem B'Yom Tzara. So then the Chazal understood that to tell you that you should be somech Hashem's redemption, Hashem's responding to your needs. And therefore they said you should be somech Geula Tefila. That's what that comes from. So now, because of that, the question is much stronger. The question is, why are we putting Yilot Rafi at the end when the whole thing, that sentiment was expressed in the place where we're learning that you should be somech Geula Tefila at the beginning? That's the question. So the answer then, that makes the question stronger, because it's so arbitrary, and therefore the answer is, no, that might be true, but the same way David saw fit to push it off till the end of the 18th, as it calls it, Tila, so to Chazal pushed off to the end of the 18th, after the 18th Brachos Shmona Esrei. Okay? Now, this is giving me some accounting problems here, because I keep on saying, if you're following what I'm saying here, what they're calling 18, we call 19. If you actually look at your Tehillim, you'll see it's the 19th. So they're calling after the 18th. Forget the fascinating question of that they're actually talking 19 Brachos Shmona Esrei. That's interesting, but don't walk down that path right now. We're actually counting. Chapter 18 of Psalms says we're calling this after 18, but if you actually look for this verse, you'll find it in chapter 19 of Psalms. Good test. So that's the Gemara's question here. It says, Hani Yudchet, one second, you're telling me it's at the end of the 18th, and that's the point? Well, it's not true. Yudtes Havian, it actually is at the end of 19. So, question mark. So, the Gemara. That's the question. It's not 18. Why 18 was really 19? So the Gemara answers, because it was a counting error. What you call 19 really should be 18 because you've broken one kapitel, one parak, into two halves. That's push everything down one. So even though you're counting it as what 18 really is 19, because you should realize that two that broken parts should be combined together.
What's 19 is really 18.
What's 9?
It's really 18.
That's right. What's 9 is really 18. Exactly. What you're saying 9 is really 18 because we're going to say 1 and 2 are really just 1a and 1b. So what you're saying is 19.
Which kapitel?
1a and 1b. Well, the first two, 1 and 2, which we'll see right now. What we call kapitel Aleph and kapitel Bet, chapter 1 and chapter 2, are really one single. We'll see. We're jumping ahead now, or a single chapter of Tehillim. And that being the case, what you're looking at as 19 and saying, wait, the verse we're talking about here is in chapter 9, really should be considered at the end of chapter 18 because you're miscounting by 1. That's the gist.
So there's really only 149 still.
Right, exactly right. Well, that's what Gemara is saying, yeah. We'll get there. But yeah, that's what we're heading here. So Gemara asks, one second, you're telling me this whole thing about 18 and 18? Well, it's not true. It's really they're not. That's actually in chapter 19. As the Gemara says, Han Yudchet, what are you talking about? It's Yudtet Havim. That's actually in the 19th chapter. So Gemara answers, well, because you're miscounting. Ashri Ha'ish, which is the beginning of chapter 1, and V'lama Rag Shagayim, which is the beginning of chapter 2, Chada Parsha, actually it's just 1a and 1b, they should be combined together. How do you know that? So we start bringing proofs. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, that he said, this is like, we're going to bring a proof, so it's moving away for a moment about this thing. He said, in a different context, that you know that famous word that we have in Tehillim, Hallelujah? Well, word doesn't really show up until 103. So he says here, he said, Chaf Gimel Parshios Amar David. David managed to get out 103 chapters of Tehillim. Lo Amar Hallelujah. He never said Hallelujah. Ad Shera'a B'Mapaltan Shal V'Shayim, until he saw, spiritually saw whatever it is, he envisioned it as a Ruach HaKodesh, and he considered the downfall of evil, or evil people, and at that point, he said Hallelujah. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, Yitamu Chatayim Min Haaretz, sin will desist from the land. For Rashayim and wicked people, Od Einam, there'll be no wicked people. Baruch Nafsi Es Hashem, Hallelujah. However that translates, that is Baruch Nafsi Es Hashem. My soul praises God, Hallelujah. So the point is that happened on Parak 103, chapter 103. Now, if you count, you'll see Hani Chav Gimel. If you actually look at the book, it's not numbered 103. It's Chav Daled Havyan. It's numbered 104. So you see there's a counting error. Because we're explicitly calling that one number 103, and yet if you look at the book, it calls it 104. So you see we're double counting one of the Parshiot, one of the Prakim, and that's it. Elishma Mina, you can see from there that there is double accounting, and we're saying what is being double counted is the first two, Ashrei Ish and V'lam Rab Shagoyim Chada Parshihi. Now obviously it doesn't prove necessarily that it's those first two. Maybe it's 2 and 3 or 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. But look, Hida Amar Shmuel Bar Nachmani, there's actually a separate Ma'amar from Chazal which further points to that it's dafka these first two that should be combined, because Amar Rabbi Yochanan said, the Rabbi Yochanan said, Kol Parshish Aisa Chaviva al David. Every parak of Tehillim that David really liked, it was Chaviv to him, a special place in his heart. Pasach Baba Ashrei, V'Sayim Baba Ashrei. He started with Ashrei, ended with Ashrei. Pasach Ba'ashrei, Dechsiv Ashrei Ha'ish. That's the beginning of chapter 1. The Siyam Ba'ashrei, and he finished with Ashrei, Dechsiv Ashrei Kol Chosevo. That's the end of chapter 2. So you see that it's being broken up artificially. It should be recombined back together. So that is the proof that really 1 and 2 are really 1A and 1B, pushing everything up, so that really, as you said, there are 549, probably not 150 probably in the end. Now, if you didn't notice, notwithstanding this Gemara, your Sefer Tehillim is not combining 1 and 2; it's leaving them separate. So there's obviously machlokas in terms of Chazal how to count it, as evidence from this Gemara, and the Baalei Masorah, the Masoretes, might have seen that name floating about, who are considered more authoritative in their parsing of the Tanakh, and therefore they disagree with this Gemara, and notwithstanding the fact that the Bavli says that the first two prakim should be one parak. Like we paskin, not like the Gemara here, with a more authoritative people regarding the parsing of the Tanakh, of the Baalei Masorah, and they reject this, and therefore we have what we have. It's like a funny story, but that's what's happening here. So when the dust settled,
it's a much nicer, rounder number.
yeah. I don't know what goes into their calculations. So when the dust settles here, the Gemara is saying, we started out by saying you should be so Geula Tefila. We asked, you never can because you say Yilot Mifi, and how do you know that? Because Rabbi Yochanan said you should say Yilot Mifi at the beginning, and you should say Hashem Sefat Tach in the beginning and Yilot Mifi at the end. Then the Gemara says Mechti. Let's talk about that for a second. I'm skipping. Saying that stuff at the end. Why aren't you saying Yilot Mifi at the beginning? That's actually appropriate, like I told you, because that is the very capital Tehillim tells you about so much Geula Tefila. So the answer is no. Chazal David Melch waited 18 to say it, and so too the rabbis of the Beit Shmonesri waited 18 to say this phrase of Yilot Mifi.
Don't we say that twice at the end of Shmuel?
Okay, yeah, fine. I'm not getting that. We're talking about the first one, presumably. Let's stick with that. There's an issue. We'll discuss it. What's happening there? And that's when the Gemara dust settles. Perhaps the teretz is this 18-19 thing anyways. You can sort of waffle it that they're 19, not 18 brachos, or maybe just the Gemara is not really going. Everything else that we have in terms of our.
When was the 19th added?
It was added in this. Shmuel Katan did it, I guess, in the late 1st or early 2nd century.
So
the common era. way later, like 500, 600 years later, whatever.
After this.
No, before this.
Before
No,
this.
sorry. The Anshe Knesset is a Geula, let's go to 2,500 years ago.
Right.
It's probably not quite that far back they did it, but whatever, 400 CE, BC,
Yeah.
something like that. 350 BC, something like that is when they made the Shemona Esrei. I don't know exactly when they did it. And then, like, let's call it 100 CE,
Right.
they
Shmona
added this
Esrei.
19th bracha. It was against the early Christians who were
Yeah,
Jews. The
right.
first Jews to defect, so we'll call them proto-Christians, let's call them. This was an attack on them.
Right.
Or not an attack, whatever you call it.
A response.
It was a response to them. What?
Found against them.
Yeah, so that was, so it comes up much later. It was a 19th. Fine. There's an interesting Tosfos here. Tosfos says, the Gemara said, if you recall, home to go on top of Dav Yud, if David liked one of his pieces of poetry, he would, start in with the word Ashrei. And that proves it must be that, one or two are the same, are really one big one, 1A, 1B, because it starts with Ashrei, ends with Ashrei. But Tosfos says, small problem. Besides for that example, there's nowhere else in Tehillim where he starts with Ashrei, ends with Ashrei. So what is he talking about? So Tosfos answers, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean Ashrei is the magic word. You want to know what David likes for the word Ashrei. What he means is that this this literary tool, this literary tool, device, thank you. This literary device of starting with a theme and ending with the same theme, like tying them back together, that is indicative of something special to David. And so here you want to talk about Ashrei theme, so he brought it in, but other times you have like Haluka many times, you start with Haluka and end with Haluka, and so on. And that's what the Gemara means here, not that Ashrei is the magic word, but that when he starts and ends with the same theme, that shows that he is especially lived in, and the first and second indeed are starting and ending with the same thing. That's the Gemara. Good. Okay. Before we go on further, I want to, because we're not having a shir tomorrow, I want to give you one more simon. So we're up to Daf Tes. So take a moment, look what we saw in Daf Tes. Just to think, I'm stopping there for today until we go forward. That's not good. We have good stories coming up with the famous stories of Bruria, all that good stuff. She's Bruria's headed away in a moment. In any case, on Sunday, that's a show. But on Daf Tes, what do we see? So at the very end of Daf Ches, on the base, we had this issue of being able to double dip the time between dawn and sunrise, with Shemona Esrei. With Kriya Shema, you can do Kriya Shema of the nighttime, even though it's already become morning and morning night, and so on. That issue there. So we picked up on Daf Tes Amud Aleph with that theme. That's what the Daf begins with, and then we went on to sort of. The end of the sugi there had Kedai Reb Shimon Smochel V'Shas Chak. If you were drunk and you missed the time, you can say your nighttime Shema even if it's past Cholos HaShachar. Then the Gemara the Gemara went back to the last piece of our Mishnah, the story with Rabbi Gamliel and the sons. They knew what he held, what they asked him, what the discussion mean, and we explained. They wanted to understand as they agree with you because Allah like the Rabbi. We discussed that the Mishnah has passed Allah like the Rabbi. So in any case, we discussed that, and he told them back, no, they agree with me, that you have the whole night, but they want to be market adam minha there, they want to keep a protective fence around the Torah, hence they said no Kriya Shema after midnight. And then the Gemara, the big piece, the big sugya on Daf Tes was, wait a second, the Mishnah lists you all the things that the cutoff is, we have the whole night, but the cutoff is midnight for the Rabbanan, whatever happened to eating the Korban Pesach? And then we say, well, it's machlokas if it's even true. Machlokas if Korban Pesach is the whole night or just the first half. And our Mishnah goes like the Mandanar holds it's just the first half, so it doesn't mention it, and so on. We had that long discussion there. What was the Machlokas based upon? We had this issue of when it was the moment of Chipazon. Everyone agrees it's B'Shas Chipazon is the deadline, but who's Chipazon? The Chipazon of the Egyptians, or the Chipazon of the Jews? The Egyptians were running around like crazy at midnight, and therefore when the Torah says you have to eat your Korban Pesach B'Chipazon, it means up until the time that the Egyptians panicked, it was midnight. And the other sheet is it's the Bnei Yisrael when they rushed out at the break of dawn, whatever it is, to go leave Mitzrayim. So that was the main issue there. That took us to the bottom of the Amud. Fine, yeah. Then we had these interesting stories about the please ask the Jews to get the gold and silver kalim. and why they needed to do that, so Hashem would keep his promise to Abraham, and the mashal of the guy in prison, just let me out of here and forget it, discuss it at length. And then we said, while we're on that topic, we said they emptied out Mitzrayim like a Mitzulish Ebel Dagan, a trap that has no grain, or a Mitzulish Ebel Dagim, a bowl of fish in the water. And then, like we said, while we're talking about Yitzis Mitzrayim, let's just throw in also this Ekesh or Ekia. What's that all about? Let's get something. No, first, that's right. And then we said, once you're talking about double languages like Ekesh or Ekia, what was with Eliyahu's Aneni Hashem Aneni? And we said, okay, answer me. The Flash come down and answer me. They shouldn't think it's kshaf. That was the end of our first Mishnah. Then the Mishnah, today's Mishnah, whatever it is, the second Mishnah of Brachos. When does Kriya Shema happen? And we'll focus from Tchelis and Lavan, white and blue, or Tchelis and Karsi, and the love like Tchelis and Lavan. The Gemara asked, one second, blue and white are so different. You can see the difference even at nighttime. What's the difference? Why that's not a good time to figure it out when day begins. And the Gemara answered what it means. It means to differentiate between the white in it and the blue in it. Rashi said, what's in it? It meant if you have a whole ball of wool that you dyed, you'll find the white blotches. Tosa says, what? He doesn't like that from beginning to end. The most technical reason why is because the Gemara Menachah said that the mitzvah of Shema is talui on the mitzvah of tzitzis, and then where's the taliyah, where's the dependency? Unless you say, you look at your tzitzis and you'll see it's time to say Kriya Shema, and therefore you understand that the blue and the white rings that are, and you can see the difference between the blue and white rings, which are quite close together, that means it's time to say Kriya Shema. That was yesterday. And then we transitioned to the importance of Soma Geula Tefila ultimately, because we were saying, the step was, we said, so when's the ideal time to say it? So Abaye had said, it's not that early. The ideal time to say it is like the Vasikin. He said, putting on tefillin, yes, from blue and white. But for saying Shema, much better to say it like the Vasikin do right before the sun rises, so that you can say Shema, Gal Yisrael, and get it right Shema Esrei at the exact right time. And then we said the virtues of that. It's fantastic, and people love mitzvahs like to do that. And we learned today of Brona, who didn't stop smiling all day long. We had the story line above that. Rabbi Zera said that, not Rabbi Zera, whoever it was, Rabbi Yossi Bar Eliakim said that we have a tradition from Jerusalem that nothing bad will happen to that day. People take I've seen this written in Sfar. People take it very seriously. Because the Gemara came out saying, you don't have much exact that time, then nothing bad will happen to you. By the way, I forgot to mention, there's a strong minhag. There's a minhag, which is not a widespread minhag. People to daven nates on Rosh Hashanah because of this Gemara. They figure
for the whole year.
Yeah. Well, but Rosh Hashanah specifically, because it's like not like the din's happening to the day, they figure like you can't go wrong if you daven Rosh Hashanah, really. In any case, it's more than like that. So that's that. Nothing bad happened to that day. We had a question. Zera said, something bad happened to me. We answered, that was good, not bad. You can see the face of the king. And then today's Gemara's we're focusing largely on again, Soma Geula Tefila and how it works. And we said it's Tefila Richta and Geula Richta Dami. Fine. And the last piece of this is proof of Yulat Mafi.
Who is this?
Should go at the beginning and the end of the Dami. Good. Fine. So Tess. So the simon for Tess is a teapot. Why a teapot? Tess, teapot, and it looks like a teapot. And that's the best that we've got for you. If you look at a couple of the teapot. What? The actual letter Tess looks like a teapot. Look at it.
It does.
Sorry, that's the best you. Look, you have to see. You see? Yeah. So that's the story. It's sort of Goldmar's. Works for him, it's going to work for us. So it's the better one for that. So test the teapot. So our picture here, so the elements I want to bring in here are the big issue of the Korban Pesach, the biggest sugya on the daf, and when it is, and the machlokas, in other words, if the limiting time is the Hipazon of the Egyptians or the Jews when they're rushing about. I want to bring in the issue of the gold and silver, which is also quite a big theme. And finally, Somach Geula Tefila. So I want to. This is the picture. The picture is that it's like they're eating the picture that the Jews are sitting there eating this fancy Pesach Seder. They're pouring tea. That's you have the teapot in there. So they're pouring tea at the Pesach Seder from a beautiful. Oh, sorry, one more thing. And the blue and white, because that's our Mishnah, blue and white issue. So I've seen very fancy teapots that are blue and white. I don't know where they come from. Do you have that picture?
Yes.
If I mean teapots, when I think of fancy, I think blue and white already, so it's easy for me. I don't know if it's
Delft.
Delft it's called? I don't know. It comes to be natural. I don't know why.
Right, Delft.
Anyway, so
Grandmother used to have one.
you have to picture the fancy teapot that they're having the real Pesach Seder. They're pouring from a blue and white teapot, drinking tea at the Seder, and eating it with the Korban Pesach in front of them and their fancy gold and silver utensils. That's a gold and silver, right? And all around them, as they're calmly eating, like, the tea, is the chaos of the chipazon of the Egyptians, the Jews running in all directions. Right? So the Egyptians and Jews running in all directions around them, because I want to have the two chipazons, the chipazon of the Egyptians at midnight, the chipazon of the Jews. So that's the picture. Eating teapot. Pouring tea out of a blue and white teapot at the Pesach Seder with your gold, silver kalim, while around eating Korban Pesach, while around the Egyptians and Jews are running like chickens without heads, running around like chipazon. That's a picture, all the elements that I can get in there in a short story for dot test. I'll send you we'll write it up and send it to you.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay. So I'm not here tomorrow.